Hello and welcome to Guided, helping you navigate your divine journey. Welcome, and if you haven't been here before, welcome to you. And you are in for a treat today. Today, if you haven't been to Ireland, I am going to take you there virtually, of course. And joining me today is folk singer songwriter Brendan Farrell. Brendan, thank you so much for joining me on Guided.
Very much for having me now. It's a real pleasure, Jodi.
So let's get into the fact that we intersected along our journeys from a very special individual. Her name is Stacey Toy. Now, Stacey was my intern at WNEP TV back 17 years ago, and then she rose through the ranks to become a director, and now she works in the film industry. And so I kind of stumbled upon your music through a Facebook Live. You were singing and you were so beautifully animated and had such passion through your music and singing. And I noticed that Stacey, after the fact, was one of your contacts. And I thought, wow, what kind of a coincidence, but not really, because I don't believe in coincidences. I believe everything kind of happens for a reason. So I just thought, how beautiful. And then later found that you had some ties to Scranton in that way, Scranton, Pennsylvania. And Scranton, for those who don't know, Scranton was an industrial hub for the United States in that people went there to coal mine, and a lot of the immigrants were there in the 1800s for that reason. So, you know, the Irish and the Italians and the people from Poland, Polish and Germans were there. And I happened to live in a Polish hamlet called Peckville, and then later moved to Taylorsville, which had a lot of Irish influence. So that's why I was there. And then 17 years later, fast forward, and Brendan was there. And wow, that's kind of funny how we just kind of intersected. And you never know, because of the people that you run into and are a part of your lives, how that's going to influence you. And then you're going to meet other people because of them. I think that's beautiful. So let's talk about that, your kind of trip to Scranton and how that evolved with you and Stacey.
Yeah, well, I've been over a few times now, actually, Jodi. I've got friends that live in Avoca, just outside Scranton. About maybe 10 years ago or less, a couple of rock bands came from Scranton to play in our local festival here in Ballina. I live in Ballina, County Mayo, so I'm on the west coast of Ireland. It's very remote, but it's the nearest place to America, if you like, in Europe, where we are the outpost here. So yeah, these two rock bands arrived, and I was actually in charge of health and safety for the festival. So I got very concerned about this American traveling circus coming. I got in very close to them, had to keep an eye that everything was safe and everything was being done properly.
Because you know we get wild over there.
Exactly. You know, I've seen videos from, well, I know I won't go too far into some videos I've seen about American rockers here. But yeah, so the guys arrived and I got very friendly with them pretty much immediately. Basically because of our love of music, I suppose. And they had a shared love of Ireland, and a couple of the guys were actually connected. Their ancestors had left these shores back during the 1840s, during the Great Hunger here. And basically their ancestors would have been the people that you're talking about that came to places like New York, Philadelphia, and further into Scranton, working on the railroads, working in the coal mines, all that stuff. And yeah, we just hit it off. So the first opportunity that I got was probably 2 or 3 years later, where I was invited to the wedding of the bass player and the photographer. Okay, those
Wow.
two. They had kind of loosely said when they were here, "Oh yeah, when we get married, you got to be there." And so basically, I heard they were getting married, and I was on a plane, and I went. So yeah, happy times now, very happy times. And I've made some very, very strong connections in the Pennsylvania area because of that. So I'm very, very grateful for that accidental meeting.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful story. And also the St. Patty's Day Parade in Scranton, Pennsylvania, for those people who don't know, it's the third largest in the United States. I covered it when I was a reporter there. And then, of course, you were a part of that as well. Now, you talk about a story on a podcast. In fact, Stacey's involved in that podcast. Tell us about that story, how people, you know, they don't necessarily appreciate where they're from sometimes. And you kind of said, you know, hey, you might want to appreciate the beauty of where you're from. Tell us a little bit about that story.
Okay, no problem. So St. Patrick's Day is 2017 or 18, I think it was 18. So I am involved in a startup business. It's a young business now, but it's called Take Me Home Tours. My business partner in the States, Paul Kostiak, is an uncle of one of the guys that I was referring to, Lee, my friend. So we were putting together the early stages of business development and all that, talking about marketing to the American tour sector, if you like, trying to get you guys to come over here to where I live.
I'm sure you have to like twist our arm to go over there, right?
You know, it sells itself once you show people, you know, what we've got, especially around my area. So as part of this promotion, I was asked to take part in what I thought was a radio interview, but it turned out to be a radio/video podcast type thing with Stacey and brilliant Marky Denenbaum. So it was basically myself, Paul, and Lee being asked about the business. And it turned into a 90-minute conversation about Ireland and the beauty and the culture and all that. And it just occurred to me in the middle of that interview. And even if you just turn around now and look behind you at that cherry blossom, you know, there's so much, there's so much beauty.
It's
in America.
gorgeous, yes.
And I found that weekend that I was there, it was the 12th, 13th of March that year. Those evenings, you know, kind of mixing with the business people of Scranton and the politicians, and all they seemed to want to do on that particular occasion was to diss each other politically and criticize their area. And I just said, stop, will you? You've got a fantastic place here.
Yeah.
You know, open your eyes and appreciate what you've got. You know, if I was to talk about my bucket list, my dream list of places to visit, because people's bucket lists are generally connected with travel, I would say that 7 of my top 10 places that I have not yet been to are in North America. So, you know, look around and enjoy your own home. But then, by all means, come and stay with me as well, and let's travel. Let's travel around the west coast of Ireland and see that too.
It's so beautiful. In fact, I just stumbled upon one of your videos that Stacey had a part in with producing and directing, and it's called My Land is Dying. Am I getting that right?
That's correct, yeah.
It's absolutely pristine. It is so gorgeous. I mean, you probably used some of the, what am I losing? I'm blanking out on the name. When it's like overhead shots of, yes, thank you. I totally, no, thank you. Thank you. The Irish help, you know, that's another thing that they do. Okay, so there's like drone shots of this gorgeous green land, and it's so exquisite. It's so beautiful. So you need to go hop on YouTube and you need to watch this video. And of course you can find Brendan's music on all of the digital platforms. So Spotify, Apple Music, all of that. So all of his music, if you haven't listened to it, go check it out. It's amazing. Okay. So, and I'm not just saying that, like and hopefully he will, you know, entertain us in a little bit, but he has this rich, gorgeous tone. It's so fantastic. But anyway, this video is so beautiful, and I really hope to go to Ireland at some point in my life. I hope sooner than later. But yeah, I mean, Stacey had a part in this, and during that podcast, as you mentioned, you know, people were dissing each other. And I think that sometimes we just get caught up in the fact that the grass is always greener somewhere else, you know, and
here, you know,
right.
Doesn't mean it's better.
Right. And we don't appreciate what we already have and where we are. And, you know, one of the people that I love, there's an author named, her name is Byron Katie. And she has a book called Loving What Is. And really, if we just stop and be still, I think we can really just appreciate what we have. Even in the darkest moments, there is always something to love, whether it's we are still alive taking another breath. We have a family. We have, you know, this beautiful blossom tree behind me. There's always something that we can find that is beautiful, even in those dark night of the souls, you know? And so I think that's wonderful that you pointed out to those people, you know, you may be on different sides of the aisle politically. You may be not liking a depressed city at that point in time, maybe in a coal mining town, but there is always something to love. So I think that was a good point.
Yeah, yeah. No, and in fairness to the people that I mentioned it to, they all took it pretty well and said, yeah, you know, maybe there's a bit of wisdom in what you're saying. And, you know, sometimes you have to hear, you know, somebody, you need to be told to open your eyes, you know, because a lot
Yes.
of people, including myself, sometimes we get caught up with work, career, family, bank account, mortgage payments, you know, all that stuff. And like you say, to be able to step back and just look up at the sky, you know, look into the trees, watch the birds, listen. It's, from my point of view anyway, that's where a lot of my creative inspiration would probably come from. I live very close to our local town, Ballina. I'm 2 miles out, but I'm far enough out to be in the countryside. So, you know, I don't notice it every day, but when I do, it's like, oh my God, I'm so lucky.
That's actually another question I was going to ask you is where do you receive your inspiration for your writing and for your music? So nature?
Nature is one, definitely, but I suppose I'm a bit of an amateur historian. Um, I do prefer to write about what has happened and try to do that accurately, almost like a historical journalist. If
Mm-hmm.
talking to a journalist, so obviously you know what I mean there. I like to be able to validate the story before it goes to print, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then other things will obviously inspire, like it could be a moment in time, it could be a memory of a feeling, it could be like the world is full of love songs, right? You know, it comes from many different places, but I do think that it only comes, for me anyway, when I'm in a position to listen to myself. So I need that silence, I need that countryside, I need the clean air. I think if I was living in the middle of Dublin city centre or in a high apartment block in New York, my creation wouldn't flow the same way. You know?
That's so beautiful. The world is filled with love songs.
Yeah, it's inspirational.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you're a romantic at heart, I think.
Yeah, well, I probably am. Yeah, I am. I've written, like I've said this on a few different radio interviews. I've written over now 700 songs. Most of them have never got off the page or out of the room I was sitting in. And the joke would be probably because they're not very good, but a lot of them are personal, um, emotional, feeling type songs that are probably for me. You know what I mean? I'm better at sharing the journalistic stuff. But yeah, I've written a few love songs, and some of them are okay. So we might hear some of them someday. Who knows? You know, it depends. It depends where I go.
I'm excited about that. Now, you kind of went through a dark night of this while I was reading on your website, which brendanfarrell.com. Is that right?
And Farrell music.
Brendan
Dot-
Farrell Music. Thank you. Brendan Farrell Music. Okay, so on your website, you were talking about how you were coming back actually from the United States.
Yes.
Okay, so tell us a little, take us back and then tell us what happened.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like going back a few months previous to that, we had a family bereavement, very sad time for us all. And my wife's sister-in-law had passed away after a tough journey. Obviously, that had a devastating effect on the entire family, families, if you like. It's a connection of 3 or 4 families, like everybody. So I always say I was far from the worst affected by this. Obviously, her husband Mark and our kids were, and our parents and our siblings. But it did have a real effect on me that turned into manifested as just basically a depression. You know, I did kind of pull myself out of that August, September, and I was off work maybe for 4 or 5 weeks. But after that, I went back to work and just got the head down and just, you know, milled along to Christmas time. Then around that Christmas time, I'm starting to work on this project for Take Me Home Tours with Paul. That got my brain very much activated again and back in a zone where probably it was all focused on the work that I was undertaking the project, and also I work for a living as well. I'm a manager in a factory, and so I was freewheeling, if you understand that term. I was just letting life take me and bring me off.
Kind of like an automatic pilot.
Exactly, yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was like I had found the button again to press, and off I went.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people live their lives like that anyway, so that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I got to the States. I had a really, really great experience with people in Scranton, and my friends over there in particular. It was one of those St. Patrick's weeks where it snowed real heavy in Pennsylvania. So if you remember them kind of 5-foot drifts.
Oh, yes.
So in terms of connecting with nature, I wasn't able to see the Scranton that I knew or the Evoca that I knew because it was just all covered in white. But it was a different kind of beautiful, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I did find myself kind of musically getting awoken again. I performed a couple of songs in one of the local bars that I was attending. And yeah, it was really, it kind of dawned on me, I'm back with my music. It's great. So I finished the trip. I got onto an aeroplane flying back to Ireland. And I woke up halfway across the Atlantic Ocean. Light bulb moment, boom. I had the idea for a show, basically a musical show. It's now called Take Me Home, Colleen. And again, I've got a Facebook page there called, it's Brendan Farrell dash the music from Take Me Home, Colleen. You'll find it if you go looking for it. I just had this idea that I should mix my love of music and history together and actually create something and get my head stuck into something now, project-wise, that was creative as opposed to business or kind of money motivated or any of that stuff. So I landed, I told my wife I had this idea. She was like, probably, oh God, another good idea, let's see. Been very aware, all my family aware of all of a lot of the songs that I would have written, but again, never put them together to show them. This one was going to be something original, something totally new, something that I had to learn. I'd be very good on local history. I'd understand an awful lot of the facts, but I went looking for names of people and actual events, you know, trying to put a face on the people that passed away during this terrible event in the 1840s. And within 10 months, yeah, I had delivered the show and I performed it for the first time. So it was an inspirational moment waking up on that aeroplane. And to be honest, it was a little bit frightening too, because I knew the body of work that I was going to try to put together was going to take some amount of effort. But once I got started, I found a passion kind of coming up through me that it drove me, you know. So, yeah, a dark moment to bring out the color, I think, is the way I would have described that experience, you know.
That's so inspirational. What would you say to people who are kind of in that automatic pilot, who have that corporate job or that factory job, to then be able to utilize and kind of just really touch upon the creativity that they have and infuse that into something big and really just run with it like you did? Because, you know, it could be something complacent, just over there, if you will. And then you need to kind of bring it back into your life and then bring it alive like you did. Because so many people say, oh, someday, you know, and then you kind of just grabbed it. And like you said, added the color into the black and white.
That's a really, really good question, Jodi. I think, like, I know an awful lot of people with very high level corporate jobs, both in the company I work for and in many other companies. And I would actually say that a lot of the Irish are pretty good at getting that balance, the work-life balance, that buzzword that we hear, but it is a real thing, where they actually center their lives around two centers, if you like. They orbit around two centers, one being the work side and one being whatever the other thing is. In Ireland, we are very, very sport centric, if you like.
Uh-huh.
And that's a major contributor. But I don't think that people have to pull out something to create something big. I created something big, like 10 months of work, and something that's got video and sound recordings and imagery, and we're currently working on writing it into a play as well, the whole story that I wrote. It doesn't have to be that big. It could be a simple thing like getting out a pen and a piece of paper and just drawing a little doodle sketch. Just something that I feel that everybody should try something new. And for New Year's resolutions, I hear all these things, I'm not going to have sugar anymore, I'm giving up my coffee, I'm going to stop drinking or smoking or whatever the thing is that they're into, I think the best resolution you can come up with, and it doesn't have to be for New Year's Day, is what am I going to do tomorrow that's different?
I like that.
Get the brain going,
Right.
I'm pretty lucky in that, I suppose, the family that I come from, we would either be very well read. Not me. I was too lazy as a kid to sit down and read.
I don't believe it.
Yeah, well, it's true. I preferred to watch documentaries about the American Civil War or Gandhi, or my siblings, my mother in particular, brilliant book readers, bookworms. I have a brother who you can give him the newspaper today and ask him a question in 3 years' time, like a quiz master. Ask him a question about the name of a politician who said this, and he'll have it off. We all have very different ways of absorbing our information, But yeah, I think listening is almost just as important as the ability to read or to
Sure.
get hold of, especially from a songwriter's point of view.
Yes.
You need to be passive. So how will I put it? People might not notice me noticing them sometimes. I'm just sitting in the background, staying quiet, and just kind of tipping my hat quietly to whatever situation is going on. I may then go around a week later and write a song about that or those people, and they will never know it was them, So
Yeah. The quiet observer.
Yeah, exactly. You have to be, well, I'm quietly observing before I write it. And then, well, you've heard me saying I'm not quiet when I sing. So
It's beautiful. I like, though, that thought. It may not be something extravagant at first, but something small every day that leads to something bigger. And that's different. Go out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful sentiment.
Yeah, I do. I honestly do believe that. I think that we as creatures, as human beings, we tend to get settled in very, very quickly. We're very good at adapting to whatever situation occurs, but then making that the norm. And I wouldn't be one for worrying about changing. I changed jobs within my company a couple of times. I think change is good. I encourage people always to try the new stuff. My own kids, I'm always kind of not pushing them, but encouraging them to give something a go. But like you say, just something small, something different can make all the difference to somebody's mental health and their well-being and all that kind of thing. I've certainly got far too many friends in graveyards, and I'm 45 years of age. I've got way too many that didn't try or didn't get the opportunity to do some of the stuff that we're all still lucky enough to be able to go and do tomorrow. We can do anything. So, I met a girl last week at work. We were just kind of chatting about, what's going on, and especially with current world, the COVID and just all that stuff. And she told me that she was learning, before this happened, she was planning to learn to fly fish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and she'd never had a fishing rod in her hand. And I just went, that is brilliant. It's
nature.
Yeah. That's going to be good for the soul as well as the mind, So, stuff like that. Driving to a place you've never been before and just getting out of the car and seeing it, walking around, that can do it.
Yeah. What do you still want to do? Oh, yeah. What do you still want to do?
What do I want to do? Jeez, I have loads of things that I want to do. certainly I want to go to the west coast of America. I've not been there yet. I've seen pictures of your area around
I
Utah.
know.
It's
It's so
beautiful.
beautiful. Yeah.
I would love to go to a Kansas City Chiefs football game just to see how loud it is. Uh, although I support the Atlanta Falcons and they're pretty loud too. You know, there is probably a book in here in my head somewhere that I want to write.
Oh yes, me too.
And I think it's not. It won't be a novel. I don't think it'll be something based on fact. I've lots of things I want to do. I want to be able to play the piano properly. I've got a beautiful 150-year-old piano in my sitting room there that my daughter, Aoife, the youngest girl, she's 11. She's able to play it. I'm looking at that going, well, if she can do it, surely I can do it. You know.
Nice.
All these things. Yeah. What do I want to do? Ultimately, I just want to be happy. You know, and my family as well.
Yeah.
And you know, it's the requirement right now for a happier world. It's never been so needed, you know, as opposed to what's going on right now. So I think that, you know, my bucket list, if you like, it's evolving. It might have started as a top 10. By the time this thing's over, it may be 100 things. I don't know.
It's probably the question is, what don't you want to do, right?
What don't I want to do? Yeah. It probably is. And you know something? There's an interesting one. Now, I'm lucky. I've got a nice job. I like my job. I like the people I work with. I know a lot of people, well, quite a few anyway, that for whatever reason, something negative has happened or they're kind of stuck in a rut. They really don't like what they're doing, you know, in terms of their job. I'd say that a lot of those people right now that have been laid off temporarily because of the crisis, you know, they've no work, they're redundant. I think those people will have an appreciation now for how lucky you are to be able to get out of bed in the morning, put on your clothes, get in your car and go to work. A basic fundamental thing that we take for granted. So while I'm not one of those people who doesn't want to go to work, I'm completely the opposite. I do know people that were like that who have now changed. What I don't want to do is ever go back to that mental place that I spoke about 15 minutes ago. I think you can understand.
Yeah. What do you think will prevent that?
Mindfulness would be my answer.
Okay. And what is mindfulness to you?
Well, it's basically, there's a couple of elements to it, I suppose. The first part of it would be understanding that there is no point in worrying about something that you have no control over.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah.
You can try to navigate and manipulate the outcome or the result, but ultimately, if you've not got your hands on the wheel of that bus, you're not going to steer it left or right. You know, you're just going to have to adapt to the journey it's taken. So I've learned that for sure. In other ways, mindfulness to me is being connected enough to the ground. You know, the grounding thing is something that certainly I'm a big believer in. I wouldn't be one for meditation or anything like that. It's not something that really I've ever done, but I get the same value, I'd say, from picking up my guitar. And, you know, to me, if I'm doing that because I'm feeling a bit, you know, having a bit of a blue day or whatever, I'm doing that because I know I need to do it. Mm-hmm. So that's in itself, you know.
Right.
And I suppose just watching out for others, watching out for the signs of kind of weaknesses or issues, depressions that you might see coming across your path, rather than just ignoring those people and saying, you know, they're having a bad day. Actually going, you know, saying, hey, are you okay? You know, can I help? Do you want to talk? Let's go for a cup of tea or a hot chocolate or whatever, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I'm not educated in this at all. These are just kind of things I've picked up, I suppose, in the last 2 years, you know?
Yeah. I think that's beautiful though. And, you know, as far as meditation goes, I mean, like you said, it doesn't always mean to just be sitting and quiet and still. I mean, for some people it's walking in nature. For others, it's music. For others, it's writing. So meditation can be different for everybody.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, I suppose if you were to look at my late grandmother's generation, so these are the people that were born between 1900 and 1920, and you think about the things that they went through in terms of coming through a couple of world wars, a pretty big depression internationally, you know, economically. The agricultural people here in Ireland struggling from day to day. When you look at what those people came through, I'm sure they didn't actually have a word for meditation. You know, it wasn't something they practiced or talked about. But I know for a fact that my grandmother would go for a walk 3 miles down the road, down a country lane. Or my grandfather would go into a field where he was making hay or, you know, getting crops or whatever, connecting straight back on the earth with.
Yeah. They might have
and
called it like pondering, aligning, you know, receiving, praying. There's so many different things. Like you said, mindfulness.
Yeah. It's everybody for himself, probably. You know what I mean? As long as you're aware, if you're having a bad day, why that might be. You might not always have the answer. Think about maybe why. And then always kind of remembering that, you know, tomorrow is a new day. So however bad the day is, you've always got another one coming, presuming you make it through the night. So
yeah. And it's a blessing just to make it through every day, every night. You know, there's a guy named Michael Bernard Beckwith who I love. And he talks about, you know, if we're in a situation where we feel like, oh my gosh, whatever the circumstances, like COVID-19, you know, this is just an unprecedented time, and so many people are going through difficulties, and my heart goes out to them. But he said, instead of asking disempowering questions like, why me, why this situation, ask empowering questions like, if I had to stay in this situation forever, what quality would I need? You know, so for instance, I might need strength, I might need endurance, I might need perseverance. So what types of things might we need if this situation actually lasted forever, whatever that situation might be? You know, so
resilience is the word that bounces into my head. You know,
yes,
there is like I can talk about the situation in Ireland a lot better than anywhere else, obviously, but something that the Irish people have, and it's deeply embedded, it's DNA, it's in us, is a resilience or an ability to take on whatever the problem or the challenge is and do your best to overcome it. You know, people that will know Irish history well will understand that we've been invaded by the Vikings and the Normans, and then pretty much for the last 800 years we had situations around dealing with the British who were coming over as well. So there has to be an enduring quality about the Irish people that allows us to take on the worst of situations and still, you know, eventually be okay. Unfortunately, with this thing that's happening right now, everybody is not going to be okay.
right.
Our numbers are, thank God for now, nothing like what's going on in, especially New York. I'm sitting here in front of a New York mural.
Right.
I love this. I've got family over there and I've got friends there, and I'm obviously very concerned for everybody. But in Ireland, with a very small population, we're 4.5 million people, something like that. We could all fit into one corner of New York, probably, you know. We are losing people. We're just shy of 300 people having died at this stage. But for a country our size, that is a massive number, and we know it's going to get worse. I've got family involved on the very front line of this thing. This is in the uniformed services and also in medical professions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like it's a bit like when 9/11 had occurred and everybody spoke about the heroes. To me, we're talking the police, the fire service, the ambulance drivers, the nurses, the doctors, the physiotherapists. Fortunately now, the undertakers are part of this hero line, you know, because they're doing so hard. We've been lucky enough so far, I think, in Ireland, because we did get a call from our government a little bit earlier than most countries. The town of Bergamo in Italy is a place I'm familiar with. I've been there, beautiful place, and that became the European epicenter or hub.
Yes.
And it's just a normal town, a historical old village. Well, it's a large village. It's a town, maybe 100,000 people. and it has been absolutely hammered. You know, the unbelievable percentages. The city of Madrid. These are all places I visited and visit on a regular basis. Paris, Madrid, Rome. You know, the city of Madrid. There was a journalist there 2 weeks ago. He came on with a very emotional video on a Thursday night, where he was basically crying his eyes out because he had just spoken to a nurse, a frontline nurse in intensive care in one of the Madrid hospitals, who was having to decide who was getting the ventilator and who wasn't.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
Yeah. So, like, you know, what I was saying about not worrying about the things you can't control. Obviously, on this one, I do worry, and I'm quite anxious. But I think that we have to follow the guidelines we've been given. Trust the medical people that are there will do their best. Trust the government will provide the best equipment-wise, financial aid, all that's required. And then just really, you know, be there for each other at the end of this, because we don't know what the world's going to look like, Jodi, you know, economically, socially, mentally, artistically. There's so many different cruxes to this that are going to be altered and changed. I just hope that the one good thing that comes out of this will be that people are a little bit kinder to each other.
I agree. I feel like the blessing in all of it is that even though there's social distancing, I feel like we are still, our hearts are becoming knit together as one. It's like we are connecting, whether it's virtually. I feel like our sentiments are more loving and kind, like you said, because I think we're appreciating different characteristics about one another, different qualities about one another. I think we're appreciating the resilience of, you know, the Irish and each other around the globe, the heroes of the healthcare providers.
Yeah, there's something I've noticed there, and again, going back to the songwriter, if you like, the observation patterns that I would have. What I have seen is that people have become very, very creative in the way that they fill their time.
Yes.
Watching Facebook now, you've seen me doing these live Facebook shows, you know, singing a few songs or writing a song or whatever it is. But I've been doing that for a while. That's not new to me. I've been watching other musicians that actually depend on the music for their income, having live concerts with little tip jars where you can send them a few dollars or a few euros. I've been trying to support those wherever I can. There's a singer here in Ireland, a lady called Emma Langford. She's a fantastic folk musician, but she's actually created bedtime stories, videos with little puppets and all for you to bring your kids to watch a bedtime story.
That's
a bit
cute.
Like, yeah, it's like Punch and Judy show. She read all the Roald Dahl books, you know, stuff like that. People are amazing in that they find something to kind of make things all right, even if it's for an hour or for a half an hour. I think that the community spirit seems so far to have really rallied here where I am anyway, thankfully. I would hate to find a situation where we're actually competing for food or for fuel, or, you know, which these things have happened in the past after depressions. I don't think that that's going to happen here, but I think that the community spirit is very evident. But probably the hardest thing I'll say I've seen, apart from that wonderful journalist from Madrid the other night, is what's happening here. Funerals taking place on a daily basis in empty churches.
Yeah.
And the Irish are, as they say, we're very good at celebrating a good wake. There's nothing, you know, when somebody passes along, we really do funerals well in that regard, respectfully, you know. The whole community will come, you know, you were talking probably hundreds of thousands of people will come to a funeral in a local area, and now that's gone, and that's so difficult for the families. And these aren't all COVID-19 cases, these are just people that are dying from whatever reason, you know. Their families are having such a hard time, so my heart goes out to them as well.
Yeah, it's like we have to revamp almost everything, including funerals. You know, it's like I think a celebration of life now is probably going to have to be done virtually.
Well, it is being here
Yeah.
in a different way. Easter services, regardless what church you're from, there will be some sort of a mark in the week or the day. So for me, it's Sunday Mass.
Mm-hmm.
That's being done online now in an empty
Yep.
church.
Yep.
The priest has learned how to do Facebook Live. He's
Yeah.
adapted. He's going into people's homes, people who want that. We can sustain ourselves virtually,
Mm-hmm.
but not forever. That we can manage this for a few months or a year or whatever it takes. I'm sure of that. But you still need to be able to get out there and touch people and shake hands and have a hug and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. What's the social climate been though? Like for me, I went to get a flash drive for the show and I went to Walmart. I was actually surprised that people were not doing the social distancing. I wore a mask, I wore gloves, but not everybody was doing that. I was kind of disappointed. I was kind of shocked because they're not going by the directives that have been put out. So what about there in Ireland?
Well, here, firstly, our directives haven't yet included masks.
Hmm.
There are medical studies here that show that the protection levels there are limited. The big focus is on the washing the hands, certainly because people wearing the gloves. Social distancing, I would say that we're 95% there. 95% of the population is doing this loyally. We've been asked to do something important and we're doing it. But there is a small cohort. I mentioned earlier that when a crisis occurs, this is an old saying that came from a couple of generations back. During a crisis, you learn who the heroes are, but you also learn who the idiots are very quickly too.
Isn't that the truth?
It is the truth, and it's always been the way. But we do have a small number of people that just aren't really getting it. But unfortunately, as this thing comes closer to home, and as we start to learn of the people that are dying that we know, or people that are sick we know, they're going to get it very soon.
Yeah.
I think the message will come across, if not positively and proactively, then it'll be negatively and shockingly. So, yeah, we're doing what we're told. Generally speaking, we're like you stand in the queue for the shop and it's all lined out, 2 meter distances apart. Even the local factories, including my own, like we're being checked for temperature. Some of our rules are seen as essential. We're in supply chains and stuff, so we need to keep going. But anybody that can work from home, generally in any of these large businesses, is working from home.
Good.
So we're doing our best.
Good.
Yeah, don't be too disappointed in other people, though, Jodi.
That's true. That's a good point. That's a really good point.
You can advise, you can ask, you can make a comment or whatever, but ultimately there will be a small percentage that will let you down.
That's true. That's true. I guess it's more of a concern because I just don't want them to get it. I don't want more people to, contract it and everything. But that's true. I think it's more of a concern.
Yeah.
So, but let's go back to talking about you and your music because it's just so amazing. I'm just astounded with delight. I really am. Every time I hear it, every time I hop on a Facebook Live and you are just in concert. And the thing about Brendan is that he asks for people to request songs and he knows so many songs. People will just throw out these titles and he's like, oh, okay. And he just goes for it. It's amazing.
If I don't know it, I'll make it up anyway, So,
which you do have this fun little thing that you do where you're like, okay, you guys want me to make up a song? Oh, there's a tree. Let me make a song up about the tree. I love it.
Yeah, that's a challenge sometimes. I do a lot of that in my pub gigs, but it's it's a risky business, that one. Sometimes you can fall right in your nose, and I have done many times,
Oh, you're pretty good at it though. Making up those lyrics if you have to. What's your favorite? I mean, obviously folk is your favorite genre, you're a storytelling guy and through your music, but is there another favorite genre that you like?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like I'm very broad in my musical background.
You are.
Spoke to you earlier about my parents. So my father being an Irish immigrant in England in the 60s, when things were taking off, the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, Manfred Mann, Troggs, all these bands. I grew up listening to this stuff in one ear and then we might have had the country and western and the John Denvers and the Chris Christophersons, and then Bob Dylan and Tom Waits, whatever it was. We just had stacks and stacks of records. So while the Irish folk and ballad is what I practice, if you like, it's not necessarily my favorite. I love all music once it's good, you know.
Do you remember your first 45?
Yeah. I do.
Okay, tell us.
I'm going to give away my age now. Well, I did already. I said I'm 45, yeah. I am 45. It's a coincidence. The first record that I bought was, with my pocket money, was Phil Collins' You Can't Hurry Love.
Oh, I love it.
And I think the second one that I played, but I didn't buy it, my best friend Dara McGarry, was 99 Red Balloons. So,
I love that one.
Big into the 80s genre, if you call it a genre, but you know, the style of the 80s music, the look of it. I love The Cure.
Uh-huh.
Springsteen fan. You know, these are bands that I've gone to watch in concert. I've actually sat down and had a smoke with Rob Thomas from Matchbox 20 after one of his gigs. Yeah, Rob is a great guy. You know, there's so many, but we're lucky in Ireland. We do have a bit of a supergroup history here as well, you know, and obviously we've got U2 there at the moment. Cranberries were big, saw them. Boomtown Rats going back before that. But yeah, look, I love the sound of drums live, actually. That's what I like.
Do you have a favorite drummer?
Yeah, I do actually. He's from Scranton.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Who's that?
One of them bands that came to visit us in Ireland was the Underground Saints from Scranton. They're a great band. Now, they're no longer together, but the drummer there, AJ Jump, is his name.
Okay.
Italian guy. World class. And
wow.
As can be. So, yeah, I like him. I mentioned Phil Collins there, like that didn't set me out in a good story now. I'm not really
well, you want to hear my first 45? It's actually a pretty funny story.
Go for it.
Madonna. It was Like a Virgin. Okay, I was young. I didn't even know what a virgin was. and so believe me, my mom got a call. She was like, do you know what Jodi just got? She got Like a Virgin, and I think you need to have a sit down talk with her because, you know, I can't believe she got this. Oh, it was a big deal in my community. I was the talk of the town. It was pretty hilarious. I'm like, what's wrong with this song? You know, because I grew up in a religious home, and my mom was like, oh, we need to talk about this. Yes. It was so funny. But speaking of 99 Red Balloons, I remember doing a school project, and we actually put a little message in a balloon, and all of us together launched those balloons. And I thought, oh, maybe mine will get to Europe somewhere.
Maybe it did.
Maybe it did. Did you ever get a balloon? Maybe it was from me.
It definitely wasn't. It wasn't from you. No. It was from McDonald's after I had my Happy Meal. The first time I heard 99 Red Balloons, actually, Jodi, it was in German. There was 99 Luft, which was recorded in originally, and then Nina re-recorded it in English for the British market.
That's true.
Conquered the world with it.
Yes.
Yeah, it was, but yeah, I suppose just thinking about other favorite artists or bands, Sheryl Crow would be somebody that I really love to listen to. I just like her voice.
You sang that the other night. You sang one of her songs the other night on a Facebook Live.
Yeah, her cover of Rod Stewart. Was it First Cut is the Deepest, I think?
Yep.
Yeah. But again, you know, if I know 3 or 4 words of a verse, I'll have a go at it anyway, and sure.
Okay, I love the musical Once, and I just think your voice would be good on some of those songs. So, okay, those are my requests.
Once?
The musical Once?
You want me to play?
Yes!
Yeah, so Glenn Hansard. I met Glenn once. He was busking in in Grafton Street in Dublin.
Amazing.
Yeah, great guy. He does an awful lot for charity here. Very, very down to earth, very gracious kind of a dude.
I want to see that on Broadway someday.
Yeah, you should. I'm just trying to see am I in tune here.
Oh, I'm excited. Yes.
This could sound terrible now.
Brendan is going to play. I'm so excited.
Can you hear this?
Yes.
I can see your smile becoming, and I can relax. Days take this broken boat and sail it home. We still have time. Going slowly. Which always happens. If I had the words in front of me, I could do a really good job on that. Yeah.
I love that. Okay, your next Facebook Live. That's totally my request.
Okay. Yeah, well, as soon as you jump in, you just send me a thumbs up or a little request there, or just say hi, Brendan, and I'll see you appearing on my screen.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm playing a 12-string guitar here, which is hard to keep in tune because I broke my 6-string last night. Well, I've got about 12 guitars, but I
Wow.
6-string, yeah. Just
And you also play the banjo and the harmonica.
Yeah, and I can play the tambourine real good. Yeah, I'll never go to anything really, you know. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Thank you. What else will I do? I'll do one more. Maybe do something I wrote myself.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the sound is like here now, so if there's any issues with it, I will apologize again. Unfortunately, with the 12-string, it's very hard to capo up because you're dealing with extra tension and all that. Let's see what this is like. Right, so this is a little bit out of tune, but I'm not going to waste time adjusting here, okay? That song that you spoke about earlier, My Land is Dying, I'll give you a verse of that.
Yeah. Love it.
Oh, calling what we do, my land is dying. Our spuds are turning black, the winter cold. I feel as by God we've all been forsaken. It's in God now, have mercy on our souls. My land is dying, my country's down, my people crying, their fate and surround. If the winter doesn't kill us, the hunger surely will. Miracles, oh God, my land is dying. There you go.
Beautiful. So beautiful.
Another one. I wrote this one as part of the show as well, Take Me Home, Colleen. So I'll dedicate this one to you.
Yay!
It's called The Nicest Girl. So be yourself here in this one. Oh, I don't know what this feeling is that's taking over me. All I can say is that you are the nicest girl you see. I feel me heart is pumping, oh, it's bursting through me chest. Each time I see your pretty face, that's when I'm at my best. And your beauty can't be matched for me. Your pale skin and your curls, your voice like music sings to me. You light up this young soul. Oh, Colleen, won't you walk a while? Tell me all you've learned. You are the most amazing thing. You're this world's nicest girl, yeah. And I never felt like this before, but I know something great to have you now within my life. I'll walk you to the lake. When work is done, we'll have our time. As by the oak tree. You know me, darling Jodi, you're the nicest girl to me.
I love that. Thank you. That was beautiful. So, so beautiful. Okay. BrendanFarrellmusic.com, everyone. You've got to go check him out for like a review of his bio, and then you can see some of the videos, but then go to all the digital platforms for the rest of his music, download it, listen to it in your car, on your walks, wherever you are, while you're cooking, while you're just enjoying the day. His stuff is magnificent. Or just go on his Facebook Lives as well. You've got to friend him too for that.
Yeah, there's plenty of room for everybody.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Now, we have some parallels in our history, and that is back in the 1800s. We're going to kind of go back in history a little bit. So I was raised in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and in the history of our church, we were basically chased out of the East Coast to the West because we needed we wanted rather religious freedom, because there was an extermination order by one of the governors, Governor Boggs, and basically, it was a type of order. If you saw a Mormon, you could shoot them literally. So it was crazy. So we left so that we could have this religious freedom and have life. And similarly, the Irish were basically chased out by the British, and they were starving to death. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, like I mentioned there, that really the relationship between Ireland and Britain, you go back 800 years of this kind of attempted domination by different British empires that went through the day. But I can go back actually even further than that and put the boot on the other foot first. So St. Patrick was Welsh. He was a British man who was actually captured by Irish pirates and brought over slave traders. Okay, so there was a small period of history where the Irish guys we were so remote and probably so wild and savage. Believe it or not, the Roman Empire stopped in England for a reason. They never took on Ireland, even though we were there for the taking. They had an army, we did not. But we were considered too unruly and probably tough. But yeah, so you jump right forward to the 1700s, and there was an attempt basically to remove the Catholic Church, which the majority of us are Roman Catholics in the Republic or in Ireland in general. There was a Protestant group planted. It was known as the Great Plantation that took place. I'm not sure it was Queen Elizabeth or was it Henry VIII, Cromwell. It was around those times where British and English and Scottish Protestant families were given the land owned by the Catholic Irish to take over as theirs, and the Catholics were ran out of there as well. So that's all going on. You get to the 1700s, the British introduced what's known as the penal laws, and the penal laws dictated that the Catholics could not congregate, they couldn't celebrate Mass or any of the religious sacraments or, you know, their festivities. But so the country is actually littered now with what's known as mass rocks. And this will just be a big rock on the side of a mountain or in a forest that's flat enough to take a chalice and a book, where the people unofficially gathered with the local priest. We weren't allowed to be educated, so there was no schools, which gave rise to what's known as the hedge school. So local balladeers and teachers would actually educate the children in a field, in a ditch, under a hedge, hidden away.
Wow.
You know, yeah, this all happened. It's all very well documented. We get to the 1800s then, and the 1840s in particular. So that's what my show, Take Me Home, Colleen, is based on. You guys will have referred to it commonly as the potato famine, or the Irish potato famine. That's what we hear of. Now, there was a potato blight. I don't refer to it as potato famine. I call it either the Gorta Mór, which is Irish language, okay? It's basically the Great Hurt, or the Great Hunger. What happened in my hometown of Killala, which features in 2 of my videos there, you'll see them in Nowhere Else and also in Take Me Home, Colleen song. It's a small fishing port village. But back in the day, in the 1840s, 1850s, it was a very busy place. And there was loads of food. There was plenty of fish in the sea, obviously, and in the rivers and the lakes too, but they were all controlled by the ruling Protestant and British kind of landlords and landowners. All the grain, all the wheat, all the meat that was available was being transported out of here to feed Britain, basically, and that was across the country. So while the potato famine, the potato blight caused the potato crop to fail for 4 or 5 years, it should not have led to what we estimate to be somewhere around 1.5 million people in the ground buried because they died, and possibly a similar number that got onto boats to become you guys, basically, to travel to America and further afield. So we were starved out of it, basically. We were ran out of it. We've tried a few times in the past to come up and be revolutionary and to revolt. Again, in my town of Killala in 1798, 3 French frigates arrived with 1,000 French soldiers to build an army of Irish men led by the French to run the British back out of England, or out of Ireland, and that failed. When that failed, the French soldiers were arrested as prisoners of war and sent home, and all the Irish boys and men were basically slaughtered. So, yeah.
Wow.
So you've got this legacy of wanting to fight, but knowing what the consequences will be if you do fight and you lose. You know. So, yeah, that went on until the 1920s when things politically started to get a bit more educated, and the British let go of part of Ireland. Now they still have control of the north. Excuse me, I'm okay. I'm just talking too much. So there is still partition in Ireland between the Protestant and Catholic faiths, north and south of the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic. But it's a lot better than it was, and there's a piece here that wasn't existing when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s. We were going around killing each other, 3,000 people in the troubles, I think, you know. So we have a very, very good understanding of what you guys went through, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, do you feel like there's still this sentiment, maybe if it's not even spoken of, but it's like this unspoken sentiment of, you know, we'll fight to the death for our passion or what we believe in?
Yeah, certainly. It's always been there. You know, sorry, there's a tap running in the background now.
Oh, that's okay.
There is a, you've heard of the Fighting Irish, right? So
oh yeah.
You know, that they didn't get that nickname by accident. There's definitely a fight in the Irish way. But unfortunately, I suppose when it comes to numbers and winning these battles, nobody wants a war or didn't want a war. We were never wealthy enough to actually muster an army or anything like that, really. So everything that was done was kind of guerrilla type warfare and approaches, as opposed to being able to say, we've got more tanks than you guys, so now you get out of here, you know, which is what happens in other parts of the world. I think that the appetite for peace is far greater now than it's ever been, and I think that's the way it's going to stay.
Wow, amazing. That's so interesting, that history lesson, you know. I feel like it gives us our internal qualities as well. It's just deep-seated, you know, the resilience, but also fighting for what we're passionate for, and also rebuilding, you know, reinventing ourselves.
Yeah, we as a race, if you like, the Irish people have had to deal with and come through adversity probably twice every century for the last 1,000 years or more. So that's what kind of makes me think about what's going on now in terms of the COVID-19 crisis and what's going on. That resilience that I spoke about earlier, I do think that it's in there in most places.
Yeah.
And I think that you'll find yourself that it's not just the Irish, it's everybody. You're going to see a strength coming out of the remaining population, the world that's left. Hopefully a strength that's compassionate. That's all I hope for. But based on my understanding of history over the last number of centuries, people have always survived, ultimately.
I think that's such a good point. It's a beautiful point, you know. I love that.
But you know, who knows? Who knows?
I think, you know what, that's all we can do though at this point is keep the hope, keep the faith instead of fear.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say that there's never been as much prayer in my lifetime as there has been in the last while, the last couple of months, as this thing has become, you know, more and more kind of right in front of our noses. But there's another quality that's coming out of people that I'm seeing too, and it's one that I haven't spoken about so far in this interview, and respectfulness for each other too. Now, obviously, we had a chat about these people that aren't really going along with the social distancing and whatever, but generally the people that I've been working with and the people I've been dealing with have been very respectful of my space, and I think hopefully I've been respectful of theirs too. And if we even get into that habit of just respecting each other's place and their space, you know, we'll have something positive to cling to as we fall out of this war on an invisible enemy.
I agree. No, I really agree. So go back to the legacy that you want to leave. I mean, because you're already leaving such a beautiful legacy. I mean, you inspire people with your music and your writing, but you know, if the world ended tomorrow because of whatever's going on, you know, with COVID, what legacy would you want to leave?
Great question. I suppose the first thing I'd say there is that the world is going to end tomorrow for some people. You know, and every day.
That's a good point. Yeah.
We have to be so conscious of every single person being a human being, having a family, having that that network that is going to be so sore and hurt and upset and damaged through all this. My own personal legacy, if I could write my epitaph now, it would probably say Brendan Farrell. He was a decent guy. You know, I don't have massive expectations in terms of that, but I would like to be seen as kind of being a sound fella, as we say here in Ireland. I think creatively or artistically, the legacy is already created in terms of the work I've done. All I can do now is to build onto that library and make it a bigger body of work. But I wrote 17 songs in particular for the show, for Take Me Home, Colleen. Out of those 17, I had to pick 13. And that was like trying to pick your favorite children. It was really difficult. If you get my meaning. But out of those 13, yes. I went on and I performed it. And I did the show in Scranton, actually, in the theatre there back last year. I got an amazing amount of feedback from one song that I hadn't really fallen in love with, called Coffin Ships, which is a story for another day. But I actually think that some of my best work has already been done in that show. I think there's 4 songs now that I can hang my hat on, and I think I can put them against any writer in the world and say, not that this is better or anything like that, but this lives in on your level, if you know what I mean. These
Yeah.
professional high-end artists, and then that would be a dream if now I've had some, again, professional artists actually hearing the songs asking me, can they use my songs? That's a real treat when that happens, It's happened to me once or twice. And I've actually been asked to write specifically a song about a subject for another well-known artist here in Ireland, which I'm working on at the moment too. Maybe that's part of my legacy. Am I a songwriter or am I a singer?
Both.
Or what am I? I think what I am. Well, I think what I am is a storyteller.
Oh yes, absolutely. I think it encompasses all of that.
Yeah, I think that's my legacy. Hopefully, he was a storyteller.
Yeah, and you know what I would add to that. You're very wise. I mean,
That's because I'm very old.
No, then you're saying I'm old, and that's not true.
Yeah.
No. The thing is, though, it's just the fact that you pointed out that, you know what? The world could end for any of us. I mean, in the next minute. It's so true. And so just taking every moment in inhaling every moment and just taking it as just such a gift.
Yeah, the opportunity that we have here, it's something that's never presented itself to my children or your children's generation, okay? But it did present itself to us in the 1980s when we're looking at Ronald Reagan looking over at Russia and the big red button and the red telephone and the world is going to end with a nuclear bomb. And in that moment, or that decade even, half the world went around terrified, anxious, scared about the last moment.
That's true.
What we should do now, and I think some people, already are, is looking at the positives of whatever the journey is next. Not all. I have my own anxieties about the thing, for sure. But at the same time, I would give myself far more at peace with the thing I can't control.
Right.
Opposed to when I was a 10-year-old boy watching the thing that I couldn't control.
Mm-hmm.
I was absolutely petrified, So there's a real opportunity for us to actually be a bit more peaceful in ourselves, I suppose. We have to hope for the best. If you're religious, you have to pray for the best. If you're scientific and medical, we've all got different routes that we can go down. But I think that things are a lot calmer than I would have expected if you had told me 2 years ago or a year ago that this was going to happen. People where I live, people on the street are not panicking and running around the place, and it doesn't look like what I envisaged something like this might ever look. And I think we need to maintain that. Keep everybody calm. Keep talking to each other.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. I mean, quite honestly, yes, I'm praying for the world. I'm praying for everybody. In fact, today on Good Friday, we are having a worldwide fast and we're having prayer and we're inviting people of all faiths and religions to join us. However, I am enjoying this time. I am enjoying just being. I mean, I'm enjoying reading and listening to music and going on walks and talking to my family and friends and just having the world stop. It's like a global reset. It's like a personal reset. I think it's just really a time to contemplate what is.
Yeah, again, I suppose through all of this, I'm working on a couple of different projects, but I have one song that I've started. I'm trying to write something that's not too negative or too, mournful.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually sketched a title for this, Time to Breathe. The Time to Breathe.
Yes.
And if you breathe properly, that's then when you smell the roses, and that's, you know, so in terms of what this horrible thing is going to inspire in me, or I say in many artists, it's going to be a realization that, you know, time and space, we've taken it for granted, and now all of a sudden we've got something to put on our, we need to use it properly to self-help and to just to be with the ones we love, I suppose.
It's so true. And speaking of time and space, it's just so funny. All the days just kind of merge into one another. I mean, I don't even know what day it is half the time. And I think that's okay. You know, it gives us time to be creative.
Yeah. Like, I'm still working. I'm still on a schedule. I've got my routine. A lot of my friends are in the same position. We're lucky ones. Like, you know, you'd rather work than not work if you have the opportunity. But for those that are in isolation, or, you know, self-isolation is one thing, but those that have to just basically stay home because they cannot go to work, that are healthy and fit and well and able to do stuff. My own view would be, don't be filling up your day with 12 hours of work because you got to keep busy and you got to paint that wall and you have to clean the house and then you have to do the garden and goes on. Nobody is coming into your house, so it does not have to be perfectly tidy. All right, the neighbors are not going to come in and judge you. We're not looking in through your window when you're going to bed to do the vacuum, you know, the carpet. I would recommend that people put together a bit of a routine in their head. That don't be too religious about it. Don't be too stuck on it, and just do what you want now. Take a few hours and just do what you want, you know. And if that means you're going to lie on the couch eating Doritos in your
Exactly. Just live and be. I mean, seriously, folks, you've heard it from folk singer, songwriter, storyteller Brendan Farrell here today. I mean, this is like valuable stuff here.
Oh yeah, I'm so wise.
You are. I'm serious. I am so glad that we've intersected in each other's journeys. I'm serious. It's been really valuable to me. I mean, because I feel like your perspective, your lens, you're from Ireland, you know, you have a different culture, you have a different background, different experiences. It just lends itself in so many different ways. I think it's so valuable. I think it's priceless, and I think it's going to be priceless for my audience. So I think it's a beautiful thing.
Well, I hope so. I hope people enjoy listening to what I say. Like, really and truly, I suppose when you asked me to do this, and as I was kind of gathering my thoughts today or whatever, I was thinking about, you know, what will I say if she asks me this? What answer is for this question? I'm trying to preempt, which is a good thing to do. What we've done here is actually had a conversation
Absolutely.
about each other and the state of the world, and that's the way it should be kept. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Analyze, but don't go into kind of solution mode and stuff that you can't get your hands on. Yeah, look, I'm delighted that we've crossed paths as well. You know, it's really interesting to speak to somebody, like you say, with a totally different set of background experiences. You know, I'd say at the end of the day, a lot of our values are similar.
Very, very. And I think as far as people in the world, no matter where they are, I think really if you really kind of look at it, we're more similar than different. And I think if you really, you know, kind of analyze everything, we can really find commonalities with each other than differences. And the mainstream media tends to focus on differences. It tends to be divisive, unfortunately. And really, there's so much that we have, I think, in common across the world. And I think the one thing that's most important is love. I think we love families. There's so much in the world that we love. We love beauty, we love music, we love storytelling. And I think that's really what kind of binds us all together.
It is, yeah. Like, if you look at any of the great ancient cultures, like the Romans, the Greeks, and even a bit more modern, but well, not more modern, but more recently, the last of the large kind of tribal nations in middle and the south of Africa. Music has always been so important a part of their existence. And their storytellers would also be somebody that back in the day, I would have been a millionaire if I was born 2,000 years ago, you know. I would have had a lot of work to do. But no, the value in these cultures of the story, I'm thinking particularly around the Greek and the Roman mythology. So the mythology, you know, Zeus and Venus.
Oh, yes.
These are just stories that were created to, now I know that they were kind of related to religion, the pagan religions, and to godlike existence too for these figures. But ultimately, they were stories that were passed on. So keep talking, you know.
Yeah, yeah. You know, my sister, my younger sister, she actually majored, or well, she got her master's degree from Columbia University in New York in oral history. And so it's just neat. You know, storytelling is just kind of in our DNA around the world, no matter what culture or race that you're in or from or a part of. Storytelling is just kind of vital in passing down tradition. And I think it's beautiful.
And I suppose that's something you can watch out for if you're going to follow my writer's block series.
Yes.
These stories, because something that I haven't really got into yet is Irish mythology, and we've got a rich history of these fantastic tales. The salmon of knowledge, the children of Lur. There were 4 children that were turned into swans. Magical stuff, you know. And I'm going to try to get a bit of that out there. I've noticed that my American audience is growing, and I'm grateful to everybody who has followed me so far. There is, it seems, a very strong interest from your side of the water in the existence of the Irish. So I'm going to try to do that now over maybe the next couple of months as well, and see if we can educate you guys into the telling of great lies.
Well, I would absolutely love that. I love mythology. In fact, I taught it in high school. I high schoolers mythology, Greek mythology. So I think, yeah, it's so fun. I love it. So let me just make sure that I'm getting this right. Okay, so we have brendanfarrellmusic.com, and then we have Take Me Home Tours, right? That we can find on Facebook. You're like, wait, let me think about that.
I forgot about that for a minute. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, and then we have the Writer's Block Facebook page.
Yeah, that's just on my Facebook page, which is, it's Brendan Farrell and then dash the music from Take Me Home, Colleen.
From Take Me Home, Colleen. Okay, and so you also want to look up Take Me Home, Colleen. That's another Facebook page in and of itself, correct?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Okay, and make
that's
sure
the fan page.
That's the fan page. Okay, and then make sure that you all look up all the digital platforms as far as how to get Brendan Farrell's music. It's amazing. And then also, you know what, log on to Facebook when he has the Facebook Live. So you want to make sure that you friend request him on Facebook so you can then get the alerts for all of the Facebook Lives, because he'll do those free concerts and then you can request music. So it's amazing. And then also you have a YouTube page, Brendan J. Farrell.
Yeah. J for John.
J for John?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it Jonathan or John?
No, just John, John, John.
Just John. Okay. Nice. So did I miss anything else? Did I get it?
I think you've not really missed anything. You probably want my bank account details to send off.
Yeah, social. Oh yeah, you guys, Ireland, people in Ireland don't have social security numbers, but you know, I think we got all of it. And I'll put everything in the description. But here's one thing that you won't want to forget. Make sure that you click the bell at the top right, because then you won't miss all the upcoming interviews. And I'm sure that Brendan and I will do a part 2, because there's just so much that we love to talk about. So anyway, you're not going to want to miss that. And then also he's going to do more music in the future. So Brendan, this has been amazing to talk to you about this and just have like a fun dialogue. Anything else you'd like to add before we close?
Yeah, I'd like to see the rest of your garden.
Okay, so let me just do a little, and this, by the way, is not my garden. This is where I'm staying in Saratoga Springs, Utah, and they are just such an amazing couple. And hold on, my computer's doing weird things right now. And it's windy. Can you tell it's windy? My hair is going crazy right now. But the blossom trees here are just exquisite. I don't know if you can see, it's kind of backlit here. I don't know if you can see like the mountains back there.
Yeah.
But it's so
Beautiful.
pretty, right?
Yeah.
And then here's some of the blossom trees. My favorite blossom tree is like this one right over here. Do you see that one? Isn't that pretty?
It is, yeah, it's great.
It's so pretty. Yeah, it says the internet connection is unstable. So I don't know. But I'll have to take you on a tour later when the internet connection's not unstable. Okay.
Yeah.
Brendan, thank you so much for joining me today on Guided.
Not at all. You're very welcome, and I hope to talk to you again very soon. Okay, Jodi?
Yes, have a wonderful rest of your day.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.